Superman and Lois Season 3, Episode 9. There is a lot behind the scenes stuff we could talk about right now, kind of like what's being developed with CW and the newly branded HBO Max. This is the first time we're talking about a DC property after it became like a Max original. This is still like a CW original, but the thing is like it could go to Max. It doesn't matter. It's probably not gonna be renewed. I wish it would be. I wish it was like a clear-cut thing where we could be like, yeah, it's definitely going to get another season. But there's a lot of things going on that I think are going to stop that from happening. I get it. It does suck because this is one of the most interesting episodes the show has done. I'm very hesitant to talk about this one. I think just solely because it goes into a different theme than I was expecting this show to do. It really tried something, it said something, and it made me happy. I was very impressed with how it handled the topic it's about, while still giving us the bigger than life themes of a superhero, Superman show. Let's get all of the other stuff out of the way, because I want to spend a lot of time talking about the Superman and Lois dynamic in this one, or the Lois and Clark dynamic, I should say. We do have like a side plot where we see Nat wants to go see Mateo. She can't meet him because her dad's cock blocking her, essentially. He's being protective, but we know it's because he wants to do something dangerous. John Henry is literally going through a lot of shit this episode. He is losing his mind slightly. The dude is on a warpath, and it's terrifying, and we're afraid. But the kids of the episode, they're like, why don't we set up things to do the right thing, and we're going to get Nat to meet Mateo. And that's what they do, and I'm like, yeah, cool. That's something for them to do, because they don't have a lot to do this episode, which is important, and I'm glad they don't. So it's nice John gets another moment where he gets to be like, hey, I've messed up enough with people in my life. You want to go see this guy? Let's go do it. So they meet, and their little, like, I love you turns into a feud of, like, well, did your dad know this was happening? Did your dad know this was happening? Did you know that your dad was this? Did you know that your dad was this? It's all a lot. And you're like, oh, this could get really CW-y for a minute. But it doesn't. They have their little moment of, like, a tiff. They say their nice words. Everybody reconciles. John and Jordan reconcile. It all works out in the end. And that's a good thing. We don't need it to linger longer than it needs to. So those kids are happy. Well, that's going on. We also see that John Henry is going on a warpath. There's a lot of stuff with him in this episode just because when we ended the previous one, him and Bruno Mannheim were kind of like at a butting heads moment where it's like, okay, a war's about to break loose. They both do like drastic things where we see Bruno actually like send somebody to come after John Henry in Smallville. So we have like a fight breaking out in Smallville. The first thing is like he sends his goons to like threaten John. And John actually like instigates a fight which starts to go viral online, we're assuming because a lot of people were recording it. And it just looks like this man whipped out an electric baton and started beating up these guys. But they were wearing shady outfits and they did have a gun, so maybe it was justified. The mayor's going to be on his side because we do have a little bit more of that Lana and John Henry chemistry building, which we love to see. We love to see those cool people that are going to kiss at the end of the season, probably. We want to see it. We're here for it. All of this is because Bruno wants to see Pia. Pia is locked up with the DOD. They are not letting him have anything. If he gives them everything that he has, like his Bizarro body, his blood vessels of Superman, everything that he has been using to start wars in Metropolis, well, maybe he could go see it, but it's leverage and she's leverage. So it turns into a bunch of really cool sequences where John is kind of like attacked first, and then he sets up like this thing to happen, where it's like a raid on his offices, which is kind of insane because they didn't really have any proof that they needed to get him, but before they actually raid his office, the coolest thing about this episode, aside from the stuff we're going to get to, is like the way it uses the Superman character, where he is butting heads with John Henry and Sam about the role of the DOD in the Bruno Mannheim case, where he is just, we can't go in and do that. We should let this man see his wife and he will help us because he's a good person and he's trying to do right. And he goes to talk to Bruno on his own against the DOD's orders. He's like, look, I am trying to help you, but if you give up everything and you can see your wife again, I promise we're going to make sure that happens. And it looks like Bruno is about to actually be like, okay, I'll give you everything if it means I can have my wife. John Henry leads a charge of the DOD. They storm and take everything. Insane. They find nothing, so it's just like a bunch of bullshit stuff, which then leads Bruno to launch another attack with Henry Miller. He wakes up the Atomic Man, Atom Man, is that his name? And they have a fight in the streets of Smallville. And what happens in this fight, I think, changes the course of what's going on in this show. They have a fight. Superman can't defeat the Atom Man, and then John Henry's about to be killed. He summons his hammer and just whoop, boom. He kills Henry Miller. He straight up murders him in a public display, a public execution, if you will. And we're just supposed to be like, yes, he's in the right, but this entire time we've seen John Henry spiraling, and now he killed a guy, and everyone reacts so strongly. John is not like getting charged with anything because Henry Miller was like an escaped prisoner, kind of, or he's dead. It's very shady about what any of it is. And even Lana's like, what happened to this guy? What's going on? And I buy that completely. All of that makes for some great stuff. Great action, great use of these characters. Superman going against the government to want to do the right thing by the person is amazing. And that alone could hold 40 minutes of an episode, and I would watch it. But the majority of this episode is spent on the premise of Lois Lane. I've talked about this numerous times, so I don't need to go into it too much, but every time this show takes a moment to talk about Lois Lane in a way that Lois Lane isn't normally talked about, I get very excited. She's a mother, she had a miscarriage, and now she has cancer. Now we are dealing with a very personal thing for her, which is her identity, her femininity. It's so interesting. She has one more round of chemo to go through, and after that she is getting a double mastectomy. And because of that, she is scared she's going to lose a part of her sexuality and her identity. And you're just sitting there watching this, being like, do other Lois Lane stories ever explore that much of her? She's headstrong, she's confident, she's cocky, and she is like a femme fatale almost. But to have her worried about losing the part of her that is her, it is so interesting. Where she's going to have the surgery to lose the part of her that she values a lot. And I think that's a very unique thing to explore. And they do talk around it for a bit, where Clark and Lana have a conversation about her surgery. And then Lois is like, I had this beautiful dress that Clark got me. I love a good flashback in this story. It did open up another question I've always had about this show. How old is everybody? I say that every week. But we had this flashback took place 17 years ago, before they were married. And here's what I'll say about that. They haven't aged a day. Clark, I understand, but Lois looks virtually the same, which means they're over 40, right? They have to be over 40. But it's all, I don't know. It's so bizarre. But Lois gets nominated for like Medi, which is like the thing under a Pulitzer. And she doesn't want to go to like this popularity contest, but Clark buys her a really beautiful dress, this like this red jeweled piece. It looks beautiful and stunning, and she's like, wow, I don't wear things like this normally. I'm a journalist. We don't look like that. But she puts it on and she's feeling nervous about the event. But Clark's like, look, you look great. Everyone's happy. I sold my baseball cards to pay for this thing, which is such a funny joke. What a goofy boy. And they go and she loses and she has a bad just kind of night. Like, I feel so stupid. This is all ridiculous. But Clark's like, you've always been beautiful. You're beautiful now. Everything's beautiful. And then boom, they go off to have some sexy time in a limousine. A beautiful flashback. So funny, so in character. I love the way they're letting Tyler just be silly. We don't see this type of modern silly anymore, and I love it. And then in the present day, Lois doesn't want to keep the dress because it'll never fit her the way it did before, because she's going to have surgery to lose her breasts. And that is a really interesting story. And that just turns into her having a conversation with Lana about what she's afraid of, how she will always know Clark loves her, but there's that part of her that is being a woman, being feminine, that is now going to be gone because she doesn't truly feel feminine all the time. But when she wore that dress, there was that special nature about it that she had. And I know it's so dumb to say, and I'm saying this as like a cis white guy, it's just like something about that is just really well done that we definitely don't see explored in comic book medium ever. We don't get it on a big scale. Like, how many other times does like a TV show of this nature or a movie of this nature have a character fear that they're losing their femininity? It's really impressive and handled so well. And it's just two women sitting in a room talking about their like what is they're afraid of in terms of what they're about to lose. It's very, very interesting, and it's so well handled. It made me smile so much, and that turns into a conversation that there's like, well, let's try to have fun with it. You're still gonna be yourself. He's still gonna love you. Clark is gonna love you no matter what. They make a joke about like a Hooters. It was like a Hooters knockoff, Bazoongas, I think is what they called it. Clark's like, oh yeah, that place with the really good like hot wings. Not aware that it's for like the promiscuous young ladies that work there. And I love that because he's like, yeah, what does Clark care about that stuff? So funny. It is so funny. And then it just turns into a speech that Clark and Lois are having. Like, look, I want you to feel comfortable. You know, no matter what you look like or how you perceive yourself, I'm always going to love you. Clark being above it all, of course. And he's willing to take the time to let Lois heal and feel the person she wants to be. I think that's really beautiful. It's really powerful. Lois also says, sex is a big part of our marriage. It is. I was kind of just like, is it though? In the moment I was thinking, is it? But I'm like, no, it is, because we have spent a lot of time watching them have intercourse in this show. So it is, but she's worried she doesn't feel comfortable doing that at the moment, so there's just going to be longer nights where it's just the two of them embracing each other as opposed to any more physical demanding stuff of that nature. And again, find another comic book property of this scale talking about these things about losing sex in that nature where you lose a part of yourself and suddenly you don't feel like you're sexy. It's wow, it's so personal. I'm sure it's a conversation a lot of women have had in their real lives, and that itself is really interesting too. So Clark's like, why don't we have one more night? Just the two of us, and we'll enjoy our time. But Lois is like, actually, why don't we do that thing we did after we went to the Medis? And we're like, oh, they're going to have some crazy raunchy whoopee? No. They're going to get all dolled up. Clark's going to be wearing a tux. Lois is going to wear her red dress. They're going to go outside, and they're going to fly in the sky and just kiss each other. And it ends with kisses in the sky, and we're all happy for it. And no other comic book property took 15 minutes to talk about how this cancer is going to affect their sex life. It's crazy that it worked. It's crazy that I was emotional through it. It's crazy they balanced it out between like one of the lead characters killing a villain and then like the son, Mateo essentially is like, I'm with my dad now, here's Bizarro, we're going to use it to help mom. That all happens, and then it's just like Lois and Clark kissing each other in a beautiful romantic setting. That's why it's called Superman and Lois. We're letting them be together, have beautiful intimate moments, while still feeling like a marriage that's been going on for 17 years. Wow, it's literally impressive. Like, we do not do this enough. We do not take the time to execute this enough. It's so nice. It's so nice to have things look like this, and it'd be a shame to lose this. As much as this is like the basis for what I think Superman Legacy is going to be, we're not going to have like the connection that these characters have known each other for over 20 years, you know, where like in Superman and Lois, we know they've been married for 17 years and have known each other before that. We're just not going to get that on Superman Legacy. So just having this conversation with a mature Superman and a mature Lois, it's so nice and so pleasant, and it makes me smile and it makes me cry. Beautiful television. One of the best things the show has produced, and they've made some absolute bangers. So, thank you all for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And as always, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.